around its imaginary axis, and things continue developing. We continue to the Far East, and now Mr. Trump seems to want to play in the big leagues. In fact, he's the commander-in-chief of the United States. But let's not forget that he belongs to World War. They found that in Korea they had to negotiate in Parallel 38 because there is no peace treaty there. The socialist communist Korea, as whatever they want to say, call her, remain to the north, border with China, and in Parallel 38 they would in Vietnam later. But South Korea has always remained as an open wound, and for the people of the age of Trump, it's a problem. Well, it's not the age, the fact that he's a commander-in-chief and constitutional president of the United States, but it's his personality, the businessman who thinks that things shall be done as he thinks, otherwise you leave. Well, that's not how things work in Washington. As I told you once, I had a course about decision-making in foreign affairs and lobbying. That perhaps left aside some of the lobbies that common politicians and candidates have to undergo. For example, oil people. To look at the other side when they hide the rights of Palestinians. And this, well, I better not touch this topic now because I have a script here. I can allow myself this. Look at how pretty this reception ceremony. He's playing the Far East geopolitics.
Trump está en Corea del Sur.
He is in South Korea. Such a large wound for the United States. Trump warns the power of the United States. And this man, in a very nice, prepared audiovisual ceremony, I remind you that in development and in full development are brands registered by this program. The thefts of Atlanta understood that. Well, here we have the bilateral agreement in full development. To the translation nearby, and the South Korean President Moon Jae-in said, I talked to President Trump before, but once again I would like to present my condolences to the U.S. people as representatives of South Korean weapons, things are complicated. South Korean situation we will have in front and in the core, and many things will be resolved. Trade and commerce is one of my favorite topics. Of course, I imagine this is one of the great reasons why we had such success last year. Donald Trump met Moon Jae-in in Seoul. The efforts of North Korea to advance in their nuclear weapons will be a topic in their discussions. The counterparty of South Korea says, I talked to President Trump before, but once again I would like to express my condolences to the congratulate President Trump for his first anniversary in the White House. It has been 1 year since he was elected, but he has attained great goals in the conduction of the United States that he promised during his campaign. Congratulations. Internationally, he leads United States cooperation. Efforts are very high. He is sending messages to North Korea and calms down the people of South Korea about nuclear weapons. It was Trump's turn to answer.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President.
He took his earphone off. He thanked the President. It's a pleasure to be here with my representatives. We're going to have a very busy day, and it's interesting that tomorrow will be 1 year of our elections winning. Our country's doing very well. From the economic point of view, we have state market success, and we've created trillions of value for our country, so we're very happy. The stock market is going very well. Now, we're working that is going very well, and we hope to be very successful, and we get those tax reductions. Each time you spend wisely in the army, that's something very good to do. The army is becoming stronger. Our army will be in the strongest, at the strongest level. We are committed to spend this aircraft, and we're going to have the best equipment of the world. You are purchasing a large amount, and we appreciate that. There's no one who approaches, whether aircraft, missiles, ships, whatever you want to talk. There's nothing like what we
That we always talk. It's one of my favorite subjects. I guess it's one of the reasons that I had that great successful victory last year at this time. So we'll be discussing trade also. We'd like to do much more business with South Korea, where South Korea is going to order a lot more. But the good news is you will be ordering. I mean, we've already...
Donald Trump and
his counterparty, South Korean counterparty, has agreed a peaceful agreement with North Korea. And this was published by Rihanna Bosti agency. Washington and Seoul have decided to continue exerting pressure over North Korea and demanding it stop the nuclear program.
Beautiful ceremony. at the highest level, no matter where you'd go, you could never see that. That is
Agradeció el protocolo y la
He thanked the protocol and the exquisite ceremony with which they were received, and he referred to the perfect order and the protocol. The White House pointed out Trump's trip as an intention of showing the United States' intention of a hard line against nuclear and missile threats. Aggression against Pyongyang, and both leaders have agreed to raise restrictions to South massive South Korean missiles, nuclear heads. President Trump and I agreed to expand and strengthen the rotational deployment of the U.S. strategic forces in the South Korean peninsula. Words of President Moon. Spirit in this country, and I really hope that your visit to the region will be as fruitful as we have planned. And in this sense, it is good that we have the great spirit of this country. It's a great country, and I have to say it's an honor to be with you and your beautiful wife. I don't know how it's an honor to be here with you once again, and I thank you for your reception. Thank you very much. This is the helicopter of the Marine Infantry with short trips from airport to city, etc. And this is only... This helicopter is called Marine One when the president is on board. When he's not, it has other codes. Electronic security measures are interesting, but also it goes... he visited the U.S. Station, and he will continue his trip to, that will include 5 Asian nations.
La Casa Blanca.
White House has, well, makes the military salutation. White House says that Trump must show the hard line against North Korean missiles, but many in the region have expressed their fear for an Commander-in-Chief. While Trump continues his 12-day visit around Asia with his goals against North Korea, what he seeks is also to develop commerce. This has created double feelings in... this is... we don't want Trump, we don't want war. This is what we were telling you before. And the other said, Trump, go home. These are protesters anti-Trump, And one of them said, we don't want Trump visiting South Korea because he continues talking about war in South.
어떻게 이런 사람의 평택 그리고 대한민국 방문을 우리가 환영할 수 있단 말입니까?
No Trump, no war.
No Trump, no war. But there were many people against his visit. Others decided to express their goodwill. They believe in Trump, but these were protesters who said
아주 강력한 메시지를 우리 트럼프 대통령님께서 주십시오. 정말 부탁드리겠습니다.
all this was near one of the most important military bases, U.S. base. Around 20 members protested against Trump's visit. Hundreds of people took U.S. flags welcoming President Trump. Trump visited the main base.
In a little while with President Moon and his
Trump congratulated the commercial relation with South Korea and Count Humphrey, the base, and there's great cooperation. We have an excellent meeting planned to talk about commerce with President Moon and his representatives. For a period of time, and finally everything will be all right. The story is that Trump congratulated the U.S. South Korean cooperation during its visit. The White House said that Trump pretends to show the U.S. resolution on a hard line. 3 groups of attack U.S. crafts will make exercise in the South Pacific in a great demonstration of force. And the people who do not want war massively protested against his visit. They associate Trump with war. This is the historic center of Seoul in a giant screen. Hoy, President of the United States rejects Trump. Trump arrives to our country Demonstrators met in the historic center of Seoul in the Wangwamun Plaza. They lit candles and showed billboards against Trump and against the war, besides a musical and audiovisual show. Trump arrived from Japan on Tuesday, today, and he said that even if we ask God not to use the force, we are ready to do whatever is necessary to counteract North Korean military dictator that threatens millions of lives. Wating is the that at present the situation in the Korean Peninsula is very severe, All parties must be moderate to avoid irritating each other and devoting to softening this tense situation and being positive. The nuclear situation of North Korea is on the way come and heat things up if we are negotiating. Foreign affairs always has a response and everything. Activists protest against Trump's visit to Manila before the summit of ASEAN. They show U.S. flags with Trump's drawings and a text that say boycott Trump or ban Trump. Destroy. Dozens of activists met in a plaza and burnt the U.S. flag and Trump's image at the doors of the presidential palace while they shouted, U.S. terrorist number one, ban Trump in the Philippines. President Trump is included Philippines in his 12-day trip to Asia, and then he will go to Vietnam and also the Hill that U.S. must comply with the deal, and I obtained the support in different sides. This is the spirit that is being worked to keep the United States in compliance with the agreement. La Colina is the executive zone of Washington. This is also our interest, a resolution that can make the United States comply with the deal. So the legislators will carry out an internal process. We will not interfere in the political process of the United States. We are very respectful because we hope the U.S. never interfere in the national European decision-making. Or not with the deal, with the treaty. The work is in development. What we can say that is that clearly stated the European positions and the intention of keeping the United States in agreement with the agreement. Coordination with E3, European Union goes beyond E3. We must renegotiate, and renegotiated is not an option. You can't imagine, due to pragmatism or realism. It's not to be naive. On the contrary, he's being very correct and pragmatic. He cannot imagine 12 complex years of negotiations about nuclear which most of us in this room would have problems to understand the contents, even if we all developed some skills when it's about centrifuges and heavy water and things like that in the nuclear
12 years of negotiations
area. But however, 12 years of negotiations, multilateral international process that resulted in 104 pages that are extremely detailed, not based system. Anybody understands that can't be a chapter or paragraph cannot be reopened. Otherwise, the complete agreement will be altered, and it will take us other 12 years of negotiations. There is, provided that he finds the political will.
Reopen negotiations.
Well, the U.S. legislators say that they guarantee that U.S. will comply with the that the intention of keeping United States in compliance with the agreement is not quite credible. Well, as you can imagine, there are subtle, clear differences in a veteran European diplomat. But as the White House says, many smiles and very careful text, but this does not represent is not exactly helpful. I don't see anything in our 3 monitors that can exceed what we have shown and what we have prepared for the second block. Brief pause, and we come back with more events in full development. update. And the Belgian topic comes in relation with a very highly flowing situation that is being seen in Catalonia. Catalans do not seem to be willing to change their attitude. Madrid is having some problems, but in Belgium, we thought it was good to place the last ones here. With all due respect, we're going to use a documentary of a historic topic of an excellent group of Argentinians. We have taken as courtesy a concern about the anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution. As we all know, Puigdemont started his self-exile last month in opposition with the central government of Spain, and now the former president of the Generalitat, Puigdemont, asked Brussels to intervene to resolve the situation in Catalonia. Will he accompanied him? They are saying that Spain has political prisoners and that the speech was his first official meeting. I believe in solidarity and redistribution. But separatists do not believe in that. They believe that the richest must support themselves. But it's so selfish. That wealth is created as part of a system, and that system is called Spain, and that system is the Spanish economy. If we obtain sufficient majority to have a coalition government, I think this will bring stability. As you can imagine, have our government. If we have a coalition with some pro-independentist country, I think the economic situation could recover a little. If in this coalition, at least they promise some kind of loyalty to the law. Well, this was kind of messy, but that's what it was. Possible Bila, president of businessmen in Catalonia. Here we have full behind. We have in 21 United States, 22 Italy, 24 France, and 35 is Belgium. Spain has a democratic category higher than Belgium, and of course Belgium is a democratic state, but this is here, and we haven't done anything. We have earned our place being a democratic country, and that justice, where justice acts on a free basis, the political and economic stability was stated by many assistants, including the general director of a Spanish company, Ecofrego, who talked about the importance of the creation of wealth as a system. Puigdemont said that the central government of Spain took control of Catalonia, that is 1/5 of the national economy, after the local leaders made a referendum on
favor de la democràcia i la llibertat. republicans, els demòcrates, si s'accepta tot això, és evident que si això té l'aval de la ciutadania, serà d'allà en sortirà.
Cámara muy subjetiva ahí.
It's a very subjective camera there.
Que el que està fent l'estat espanyol és una regressió tan bèstia de drets i llibertats que si no la combatem junts, probablement...
Lo ideal, y ese es
The ideal, and that's my idea, is to have a broad list of regional parties that include all government, every who supports freedom and democracy.
Que l'únic camí per seguir avançant en aquest camí que seguirem avançant és...
No diria resurrecció, però d'un retorn de la tradició política autoritària.
Bueno, esto es una transmisión.
This is a radio transmission. Revolution starts by home. And here we must thank thousands of communists in a long time. We had an official mission. Remember with love those who 100 years ago in St. Petersburg made the first socialist revolution, peasant and proletarian revolution of the world. They couldn't be concealed because 100 years later, from this Caribbean, South America, the socialist flag of the 21st century to build a new humanity. And from Venezuela, we say 100 years after the Bolshevik Revolution, we will build socialism in the 21st century. The legacy of Chavez.
Interesante matiz.
Interesting Bolivarian and Christian socialism. Thousands of communists are celebrating in Moscow. This is a work made by a great group, an audiovisual, that we are going to share together with what we received via satellite by a very beloved group of the Republic of Argentina. Pictures of old Soviet leaders, Lenin, Stalin, the people, with a Soviet flag, leadership of the Russian Communist Party, and demonstrations with flags in Russian, Somol.
I think that is a necessity for the humanity to change from capitalism to socialism.
A esta manifestación variopinta.
This varied demonstration, which also had Che, had a nostalgic view. Well, the old guard, represented by the highest authorities at the time.
Ha habido toques nostálgicos con uniformes.
There have been nostalgia with uniforms of the Second World War. These are the skiers. Of the time with weapons and uniforms of the time.
Mausoleo de Lenin allí.
The Lenin Mausoleum.
Poncharon otra cámara.
Then we have another view. And on the Teskaya Street next to Kremlin, pictures of old Soviet leaders, Stalin, Lenin, and there were also vehicles of the time, the Second World War. Mountain troops with their weapons and skis, and the old chivalry that had almost suicide missions when they found themselves with the enemy.
In
1917, the great anniversary that is now being celebrated by those who struggle for the values of the proletariat. But I would like to thank Encuentro Group from Argentina that shared this work, and we want to share with you as well, because we wanted to honor all the archives in the mid of the 19th century. The Russian people were delayed and miserable. Millions of women, children, and men live in the fields, hungry and exploited. Russian society owns 7 million inhabitants, of which 90% are peasants. There are scarce urban workers that are exploited by a new bourgeoisie conducted by Alexander II. The Romanov family, 1861, Alexander movement was extended to all Russian servants, regardless of their category. But nothing changes because misery is so deep that the freed people decide to remain with their exploiters. The people are tired. There are several attempts against the Tsar, while the Russian intelligence start working committed to politics. In 1881, they murdered Alexander II, and Alexander III, in vengeance, promoted an aggressive police to attack the revolutionaries. At the same time, industrialization increased to working class in the cities and exploiting workers as well. And Nicholas II took over. He lacked experience to govern such a broad empire, and he was the last Tsar to govern. 1898, the spark. In 1898, in Minsk, the Working Democrat Party is born, with Karl Marx, an intellectual and communist. Edition of the Communist Party manifest. In 1900, Lenin came back from Siberian jail. His anarchist brother Alexander was killed in 1885 because of a coup against Alexander III. Lenin is a born activist, and he published a newspaper called Iskra, The Spark, published abroad and introduced undercover into Russia. He gives conferences, he has great meetings with intellectuals and workers, and devotes an important time to writing articles and books. By 1900, there's also the Social Revolutionary Party working, supported by peasants and some industrial workers. It competes with Lenin's party by the conduction of the poor classes. In the party is Alexander Fedorovich Kerensky, invasion of Hitler in 1941. In 1902, Lenin published the famous What to Do, where he tells how to reach revolution. For Lenin, there is no revolutionary movement without a theory, and there is no theory without mass movements. Political actions is growing. In 1983, the movement divides. The Bolsheviks believe in taking power to struggle against Tsarism and liberal bourgeoisie. For the Bolsheviks, there is no transition required. 1905. Of people marched asking for better conditions. It responds to no political parties, but they are hardly repressed by the Tsar troops, and it is known as Bloody Sunday. In response to that, thousands of people in the cities and the fields occupy land. In Odessa port, rise against the officials. They are hardly repressed, and there's a time of peace that comes. In 1905, conducts Russia to a political change which is unprecedented. And the Duma is an organization elected by bourgeoisie with the powers conducted by the Tsar, but at the same time, in 1905, created the first Soviet. The future communism. On May 12, 1905, in Ivanovo-Voznесensky, there was a textile strike. The next day, an assembly of strikers started with 30,000 workers who elected a Soviet of 110 delegates to negotiate with the employers and authorities. They are perhaps the first representatives of the people. The Soviets expand to the cities and the fields in Moscow, Siberia, 30,000 workers and unions who present a series of indications. The Duma bourgeoisie fear the politicized people. In November, the president of Petrograd Soviet is arrested, and Leon Trotsky replaces him. Place and date and birth: Yanovka, Russian Empire, October 26, 1879. Social jailers in Siberia. Trotsky is a Marxist intellectual that, in spite of having some differences with Lenin, collaborates with him. 1914, the Great War. In 1914, the First World War starts and the Russian Empire is committed. Nicholas II mobilized 14 million Russians and weakens the productive economy. 1917, the power of the people. On February 23, a demonstration in Petrograd asking for peace and bread added people from the to kill the strikers. The Bolsheviks moved their pieces and to motivate the strikers. A provisional government was created that remained in Kerensky's hands days after. Nicholas II falls, and 300 years of dynasty falls as well. The bourgeoisie democracy starts with the Menshevik support. Some revolutionary leaders were exiled to come back to Russia, including Lenin and Trotsky. But the new government is weak. The peasants demand land, peace, and the constitution of a truly popular and socialist government. Lenin and Trotsky joined to prepare the last revolutionary strike. The Kerensky government continues persecuting some Bolshevik leaders under the pretext of by Trotsky. On October 24th, they take over the telephone station, the railways, and the official buildings. On the 25th, the Aurora ships opens fire against the government palace, almost without resistance. The Winter Palace is in the hands of the Bolsheviks, and a People's Commissary Council is conducted by Lenin. The Soviets claim the constitution of a Soviet republic. Immediately, Lenin calls to elections, delivers land and eliminates private property, and finally signs peace with Germany. For Lenin, the Russian Revolution should be made worldwide. Well, this is part of history, and this animated documentary was performed by the group Encuentro from Argentina. Our peers for this topic, expressed with certain historic rigor. And our president continues talking about Christian socialism, and especially Bolivarian and Christian socialism inspired on different things than dialectic materialism, but that agrees with a search for social justice. Do you remember this? This is the Blue Christ, brother of Chavez's Blue Christ. He gave it to me. It was given to me by Jacinto Arcay, whom I salute. On the Christian concept of this process that is happening in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. It's something we share. For somebody who has walked through all the hills of Caracas when not even the police entered, we're talking about early of the 70s. I lived things that I won't want to say here, and it's not the time or place either. It was time to think of this sense. That has not been held by any power group. And of course, the bases that that Commander Chavez refused to have in Venezuela are now represented by 7 bases in our sister Republic of Colombia, because our troops went to Bolivia to give it to them in other 5 nations of the continent. And we know what is playing here. So without more drama, thank you for allowing us to be here. Studio 3 of Venezolana de Televisión. It's the higher of TV5 in the hill that not even police entered, and where I started in the first satellite service for America. It was the first time. Of which we are very proud, but it's not time to tell what we did, but just to say that we do have background and there is an ethic, professional, and moral authority with what we said, which of course nobody doubts, but those of us who are looking at us from abroad, I must explain, I'm a leftist Christian, and greetings to Walter Martinez Alves. Four of us were brought down. He reacted. He refused to participate in repression activities in Uruguay. What I did with a certain fair play. Dr. Martinez Alves, salutation. What is left? Because he looks at us, he watches us all the time. These were we used during the academy. The only purpose was to see the blood group and identification, and of course the enthusiasm of young pilots. Wherever you are on the other side of the screen, thank you for allowing us to be with you. Imparted classes for 40 years in military schools, and because I want to make this salutation to all the military who watch us.